The 2024 Emergency Response Guidebook and phone app are now available for first responders. The first portion of this video is designed to teach personnel how to use the app to gather information and make timely decisions at the scene of a dangerous goods incident. While this video was developed as a self-guide on how to use the application, instructors are encouraged to stop the video at each test slide, which is designated with a stop sign, to allow students time to learn how to find the required response information. To download the app, use the QR code for your device, or you can locate the app by name in either the App Store or Google Play for Androids. The ERG app is a very useful tool for identifying the hazardous material. The first portion of the video will help to gather response information and secure the scene. Always approach cautiously. Try and stay upwind, uphill, and if possible, upstream from a release while assessing the scene. We will use the ERG app to solve 17 different scenarios. To begin, let's focus on identifying all the hazards and the initial actions to consider, such as isolation of personnel and the public. The first question will be based on a leaking highway trailer with no placard or identification number visible. What is the generic guidebook number based only on the shape of the tanker? What are the potential health hazards and the immediate isolation area if no fire is present? On your app, tap on the search by image and then at the top, click on the road trailers and then find the corresponding silhouette. The trailer appears to have reinforcing rings around the container, but it could be either a DOT 407 or 412. Fortunately, they both have a guidebook number of 137, which is for substances which can be water reactive and or corrosive. A flammable placard is now visible. Find the new guide number based on that placard. How far will we need to isolate for a potential large spill if the leak cannot be controlled, and does this product have a potential for fire due to a low flash point temperature? Since we can see the placard, now obtain the generic guidebook page for this product. We will again click on the Search by Image button and scroll down until we see the flammable liquid, which is Guidebook 127. As you can see, it's a flammable liquid that is water miscible, which means it will mix with water.
A large spill will require a 1,000-foot isolation area. This product has a fairly low flash point temperature.
Note the special caution for ethanol, which can burn with an invisible flame. Water may only dilute and spread the fire. A special alcohol-resistant foam may be required. Now use the UN number to obtain the correct guide page for that chemical. Is this hazardous material soluble in water? And what's the first bullet point under the spill or leak section? For bulk shipments, the UN number is usually on the placard and required on the shipping manifest. When we type in 1294, the product is a non-soluble flammable liquid called toluene. The guide suggests eliminating all ignition sources and recommends special caution for the majority of these products due to a very low flash point temperature.
Use of water spray when fighting fire may be ineffective, and they recommend for a potential large fire a water fog spray with foam.
A shipping clerk has received a drum of hydrofluoric acid. They would like to know what all the hazards are associated with that material. For example, what is the signal word? Danger or warning? What do the pictograms represent? And what is the hazard statement for this product? The signal word for HF is danger due to its acute toxicity. It may be fatal if inhaled, swallowed, or if a large amount is splashed onto the skin. It will cause severe skin burns and eye damage. Effects may be delayed. We have 35% hydrogen peroxide, a very strong oxidizer, leaking from a drum inside of a chemical storage area. What is the hazard class number for an oxidizer? And what are the potential hazards from that spill in that area? Before we send a HazMat team into the area, as safety officer, what respiratory protection would you recommend? Hydrogen peroxide is an oxidizer according to Guidebook number 140. All 9 hazard classes are listed on page 6. You would find oxidizers, hazard class 5, on the bottom of a placard or label, and if you reference a transportation load segregation table, you will see that oxidizers tend to react with most chemicals, including flammable liquids, and will ignite combustibles. Containers may explode if heated or contaminated. Use an SCBA when dealing with strong oxidizers. Many overseas shipping containers, also known as intermodal containers, may have 2 orange panels. The upper panel represents the hazards of the material, and the lower section lists the identification number. Find the material by using the ID number and determine the primary and secondary hazards. What type of highway tank trailer has this configuration? By using the UN number in the lower panel, the product is found to be a bromine solution. 886 is found in the hazard identification number section, and in this case, it is a highly corrosive liquid which is also toxic. The container itself is an intermodal tank. A storage tank containing nitric acid is leaking into the secondary containment. What is nitric acid's secondary hazard? Can we spray water on the spill? And what gas is liberated if the acid reacts with metal and organic material inside the secondary containment? Red fuming nitric acid is very concentrated and can act as an oxidizer to accelerate burning or start a fire. Concentrated acids such as nitric will react with water to liberate heat and an acid gas. Reactions with metals or organic materials can liberate flammable hydrogen gas. For the next few scenarios, let's focus on the protective actions we need to take to secure the scene and set up our work zones. Every hazardous materials or dangerous good incident is different. Each will have unique problems and special considerations. Actions to protect the public must be carefully selected. The protective action decision factors to consider section can help with initial decisions on how to protect the public. Officials must continue to gather information and monitor the situation until the threat is removed. Protective action considerations are dynamic and are subject to the physical properties of the hazardous material, the location of the spill, in relationship to populated areas, time of day, wind speed, and humidity. The guidebook's isolation and evacuation distances are usually 75 feet for solids, 150 feet for liquids, and 330 feet for gases. If the chemical name or UN number is highlighted in green, you must use the green sections. However, if the product is on fire, always utilize the orange guide page. Use guide number 127 again to determine the isolation distances for a small and large spill, and for the isolation distance if it is involved in a fire. As an immediate precaution measure, isolate spill or leak area for at least 50 meters or 150 feet in all directions. A DOT 407 can carry up to 7,000 gallons, and therefore we may want to plan on a potential large spill and evacuate for 1,000 feet. If the trailer is on fire, now we need to isolate for 800 meters or a half a mile in all directions. Let's assume for the time being that the incident is a small controlled spill and not on fire. The command post should be established at A, B, or C. Likewise, where should we set up the decon? And do we need to keep the toluene out of the storm drain? If we were able to eliminate all ignition sources and contain a small spill, then we would consider location A, because it is in the upwind direction for the incident command post. Likewise, the decon line would be established close to the hot zone, but still upwind, uphill, and upstream from the spill. According to Guidebook 130, the hazardous material should not be allowed to enter the storm drain. A 50,000-pound tank of anhydrous ammonia is leaking at night with a wind speed of 10 miles per hour. You should first isolate in all directions how many feet and evacuate or protect downwind at night for how many miles. Would it be beneficial to knock down some of the anhydrous ammonia with a water spray? A nighttime release of 50,000 pounds of ammonia would be a very large event. You may want to use another modeling program such as Aloha, but initially we will use the highway trailer from table number 3 for ammonia with a moderate wind speed of 10 miles per hour. The initial isolation distance will be 500 feet and the downwind evacuation distance will be 4/10 of a mile. Water can be used to knock down some of the gas if you can contain the runoff, but never spray water directly onto a puddle of liquefied anhydrous ammonia. A tank of phosphorus trichloride is leaking during the day into a puddle of water. What gas is being generated, and how far away do we need to isolate in all directions, as well as protecting people in the downwind direction? Also, what type of PPE should be worn to handle this release? On the ERG app, type in the chemical name, which will lead you to the response guide number of 137. Several chemicals will release toxic chlorine gas when spilled into water. In this case, you will need to initially isolate 200 feet during the day and downwind 3/10 of a mile. A positive pressure breathing apparatus and a gas-tight chemical suit will be required for high concentrations of chlorine. A chlorine rail tank car has been pulled over next to US 31 at the cross street of Port Sheldon in West Olive, Michigan. The rail tank car is leaking with winds out of the east at 5 miles per hour during the day. You would need to isolate in all directions how many feet, and then how far downwind. Traffic coming from the north would need to be diverted west at which street? Does the township hall 1 mile west of the release need to be evacuated? Enter the name chlorine into the ERG app. Guide 124 for toxic and corrosive gases will appear. Next, click on the rail tank car, which is highlighted in blue. The initial isolation distance during the day is 3,000 feet, and people need to either evacuate or shelter in place for 6 miles. Click on the map icon and enter US 31, West Olive, Michigan. Add the time of day, wind direction, and type of map. You will now need to zoom into the map to locate Port Sheldon Road. Click on that intersection to move the spill to that exact location. Zooming out, you will see that traffic heading south will need to be rerouted west on M45. The township office would not be a good location for the command post. For the last portion of this video, we will focus on how to mitigate unique situations. A small delivery truck is packed with explosives. What is the explosive capacity of this potential truck bomb? People inside a building within this radius will need to evacuate immediately, and how far will people outside need to move to avoid any flying debris? In the app, click on Reference Materials, Safety Precautions, and then IEDs. Select the small delivery truck, and you will see the explosive capacity is 4,000 pounds. Anyone inside a building within 640 feet are not safe and should consider evacuating out a back door and proceed to a building further away or to an outside distance of more than 3,800 feet. A new section has been added for EV batteries. Use that section to determine if carbon dioxide extinguishers are good for EV battery fires, and should you automatically cut the high voltage cables? What are some of the signs of a defective battery? Use the reference material, safety precautions, and considerations for lithium EV battery section. Water spray can help to cool batteries, but does not stop thermal runaway. CO2 and dry chemical extinguishers can trap heat instead of removing it and may give a false temperature reading. Consult the EV manufacturer's specific emergency response guide for help in identifying high voltage cables. Do not cut these cables. A 100-pound cylinder, similar to these, have a UN number of 1076 and is observed near people showing signs of irritated eyes, nose, respiratory distress, nausea, and vomiting. What type of chemical warfare agent should we consider? Would this be considered a small or large release per the chemical warfare table? In addition, what are the isolation and protection action distances for this potential terrorist event? The UN number will quickly reveal that the toxic gas is phosgene. Since we believe that the chemical is being used as a weapon against the population, we would review the criminal or terrorist use of chemical section Checking the symptoms portion of the chemical warfare pages, we see that the phosgene matches the victim's symptoms and is listed as a choking agent. 100 pounds of phosgene is considerably more than the 55-pound threshold for a large release. The initial isolation distance would be 300 feet, and the protection action distance should be 0.7 of a mile. A propane tank is on fire. The tank is approximately 7 feet in diameter and 22 feet long. How long before we would expect the tank to fail from severe torching? Emergency responders should be how far from the burning tank? And what is the public isolation distance?
In order to get to the Blevy portion of the app, first click on Reference Materials, Safety Precaution, and Blevy Safety Precautions. Next, select the Blevy tool to view the sizes of the various tanks. The 19,000-pound tank looks to be close to the one that was on fire. Please note that you shouldn't rely on the 7-minute time to failure for severe torching. Blevies can occur at any time. Firefighters should operate from 810 feet away, and the public should be at least 3,038 feet back from the tank.
HazMat Solutions website has 2 games, one to help teach the emergency response guidebook, and a second matching game for identifying DOT labels and placards. While we don't have enough instructors to train fire departments, we do provide on-site custom training programs for industries throughout the Midwest. Please feel free to complete the Get a Quote form on the website. Thank you so much for your service to your team and the community. Stay safe and well.